Welcome back. Today we are going to go over Google Forms. We're going to start with going into your Google Drive, and I'm going to click on New, and I'm going to choose Google Forms. Google Forms is a survey type platform where you can create quizzes or questionnaires. So this is the basics of our Google form. We want to start with giving it a title. As with everything else, once you give it a name, it is automatically saved. And even before you give it a name, it's just saved as an untitled. And take a look at the window. We're going to start with the very top here, the very basics. Right away, you have your form settings. We can take a look at that again later, but do note that for today's purposes, it says requires a Southern Lehigh District login to view form. This is automatically checked every time you create a form in Spartan Docs, and that means that only people who are signed in with their Spartan Docs, just like over here, can view the form and interact with the form. Before we go into how to format and customize the look of your form, I'm going to go over each individual question type. I'm going to start with text. Text is very simple. You see right here you have a very small box here. So I'm going to go ahead and type in my first question. As you see, something simple as please state your name. It's going to be a small box. If I check this option right here for required question, that means you can't submit the form until this is complete. So I'm going to click done, and now my first question is in. As you can see, a little star here. So let's go to the next question. The next question type is paragraph text. Same as a text question, only this time the response box is a little bit bigger. This will elicit a visual that will allow students to know that you are expecting a more complicated answer. Our next question type is multiple choice. So in a multiple choice, you have to not only put in your question, but you also have to put in your options for the question. Remember, for input for students, they can only choose one of your options, but you can put as many in the list as you want. Again, you have your required question. You have your advanced settings, which means if you check this shuffle option order, every time the form is loaded, then the options will be completely shuffled. This is great if you're having students sitting next to each other taking a quiz. However, if you use an add-on like Flubaroo, you do not want this option selected. I'm going to click on Done, and we're going to go to the next question. Our next question type is checkboxes. Okay, so I'm asking which of these are your favorite foods, and I'm going to have help text in this one so that they know that they can choose more than one option. I'm actually going to ask them to please select 3. And here again, I'm going to take a look at my advanced settings, and I can put in here select at least or at most. Again, you have this shuffle option order, and you have the required check mark. Again, if you use something like Flubaroo, which we will look at in a later presentation, you do not want to shuffle your option orders. So click Done, and that's what it looks like. As you see, the question is in bold, and your help text is not bolded, and then you have your list. So let's take a look at our next type of question, and our next type of question is choose from a list. I'm going to ask people to pick your favorite color, and then I'm going to give my list options. Alright, I'm going to click Done. Our advanced settings is simply shuffle the option order. I'm going to check required, I'm going to click Done, and then you can take a look to see what this looks like. So our next type of question in the list is a scale. This is a rating. You can change how far you want to rate. It's a 1 to 5 right now, but you can change it to a much higher. So once I type in my question, I need to choose what my lowest setting will be and what my highest setting. What does 1 equal and what does 5 equal? So I'm going to say, again, with the required question, there are no advanced options on this one. I'm going to click Done, and then you can see that I have my ratings 1 to 5 here, and the student would select where they feel in this. Our next type of question, very similar to the scale, would be a grid. A grid, again, much like the scale, will allow you to answer these types of questions. However, it will allow you to ask more than one question with the same type of rating. So I went in and typed my question, and now we have to look. Our rows will be going up and down. Those are the types of questions. I put in how often do you use the following social media services. So in my rows, I'm going to put the social media. Now that I have my rows set, I need to set my column labels. Because I'm doing a how often, I need to set my intervals in my columns. After I added my choices, I decided to do a little reordering. If I click on here, I can simply drag this up. So now I have several times a day, once a week. I have once a week twice, so I need to eliminate that. Several times a week, less than once a week, and never. Once I'm done, I can look at my advanced settings, and this is where it gets really interesting. I can limit the response to 1 per column. In this particular question, it wouldn't make sense, but you can do that if you only want them to choose 1 out of each column. I can shuffle the row order, and I can require responses. So I'm going to not select either of these and click Done. And this is what a grid would look like. Our last 2 question types are date and time input questions. You have, they're both very similar in that you can have request times or request a date, and in the time one you can also do intervals. Such as hours, minutes, seconds, instead of the specific time of day. So now that we've gone over all the different types of questions that you can use in a Google form, let's talk about how we can dress it up and make it look nice. So up here you have change theme, and then you get your theme chooser on the side. And underneath you can see all the different pre-made templates that you can choose from, which are always fine and good. Now if you like some of what the template has given you and you want to customize it, you just click on this customize, and then you have all these different choices of items that you can change on your form. So once you have the form set up the way you want, you can always click on this button at any time to take a look at how the form will look for your users. So this is what the form looks like if a person was going to be answering the questions. So let's just real quick scroll down, and you can see, and then you've got your submit button at the bottom. So I'm going to click back here. So once you're satisfied with the look of your form, it's time to prepare to send your form out. So I'm back to edit, and we're going to take a look at those settings at the top here. You want to look here, if you're in a domain, this is automatically selected. Our domain is the Spartan Docs, and so this requires a Spartan Docs login even to get to the form. And you have these other options where you can automatically collect their username. You can allow them to see a progress bar at the bottom. You can only allow 1 response per person, which requires their login, or you can shuffle the question order. You can check or uncheck these depending on how you want your form to go. At the bottom, you can, before you send out your form, you can customize your message to thank the person for taking the survey. You can allow them to see the results. You can edit their responses after submitting. Again, any check marks that you need to put there. Once you've customized your options, it's time to send your form out. So I'm going to click on Send Form. Now you have here a link. You can post this link anywhere you need to. You can embed an HTML code into a website so that you can actually have the form posted. You can share a link using social media if you want, or you can simply email the survey out to a person. If you click on the short URL button, it'll shorten the URL to give you something that's a little bit easier. So if you are in a classroom, you can write that URL on the board, and it's easier for students to type in that URL. Once you have shared your form, you can click Done. So you've sent the form out and you're starting to get back responses. So what happens? We have here under responses, you have the ability to turn off responses. You can, once by clicking on this button here, it'll stop the form from working and students or users may no longer respond to your form. If I click on this summary of responses, it'll give you some analytics of the responses. Now I only have 1 response on my survey, so the analytics are not going to be that impressive. But here in my what season do you like best, I have 100% saying summer. And favorite foods, I have 100% of my responders with their favorite foods, and so on. So again, the more responses you get, the analytics will change. So that's one way to look at your responses. Another way to look at your responses is if I click on here, I can go to View Responses. Google has created a spreadsheet. So here is my spreadsheet of responses that correspond to the form. And each time a new user responds to my form, this spreadsheet will continue to grow. So now that we've gone over how to create a form and how to customize your form and even send out your form, let's take a look at what the form will look like in Google Classroom. The way Google Classroom works, I do need that link. So I'm going to click on this short URL and I'm going to do a copy of this link, and I'm going to go ahead to my classroom as the teacher. So I'm going to title my assignment just as I did before. And again, if I need to set a due date and a time. Now I want to go ahead, the way that a form works, I need that link, so I'm going to click Attach Link, and I'm going to paste that link and click Add. And then I'm going to assign my form. So to conclude our session on using Google Forms, I would like you to see what it looks like when a student comes in to answer the form. So I'm going to go ahead as a student and take this survey. And that's it. As far as a student goes, that's all they need to do is once they hit that submit button, they are done this assignment and the grade goes right back to the teacher. Now stay tuned for a future episode where I will show you how Flubaroo, which is an add-on, can work for you to help you grade any assessments that you do in Google Forms.